Welcome to the April 22nd edition of the Index Sports Show. I'm Jack Nicholl, sports editor. With me I have two outgoing sports editors, editor-in-chief Blake Toppmeyer and former sports editor and current assistant sports editor Brent Foster. Blake has been in sports for 4 years, Brent for 3, and they're going to share some of their final thoughts on Truman Athletics. Guys, have you had a favorite coach that you like working with?
I really enjoyed covering women's soccer with Mike Cannon. Coach Cannon's team is always very competitive. His athletes always, for one, they're good players. Two, they're very respectful. Coach Cannon, just talking to him, he's very excited about soccer. And the thing about him, it's always more exciting to cover winning teams, and his teams are good year in, year out. And one thing about Coach Cannon, he's won 9 out of the last 11 MIAA titles, I believe. And women's soccer is one of the lower funded teams in the conference for women's soccer. But Coach Cannon never uses scholarship money as a crutch, and every year he's at the top of the conference despite being near the bottom of the conference in scholarship funding. So that's one thing I've always appreciated about him. No excuses, he just goes out and wins.
Yeah, Jack, one of my favorite coaches that I covered here is not here anymore. The former volleyball coach, Jason Scotch. Well, the one thing I liked about Scotch and later in the volleyball program is that he was very upfront and honest with myself and other reporters in the Index. If something was wrong, he was going to tell you. He wasn't going to give you the coach speak that says, we played well, and I thought that one or two more points, went our way, we would have won. But he wasn't like that. He told you how it was, and I did think he was careful not to throw his players under the bus. I think he would stop short of saying that one of his players really cost him the game. But he was just wonderful to deal with and always very helpful in making sure that put out a quality product.
I guess it helped that he won a lot, so he didn't have to make excuses for losing.
Right. Sometimes though he even made excuses. He seemed to be negative even when they won like 3-0. So it was very interesting. He was a good guy.
Did you guys have any favorite athlete or athletes that you liked working with?
As far as just watching them play, I always enjoyed watching a couple women's volleyball players, Ely Medina and Allie Shervin. Medina always just brought a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy when she was out there, and Shervin just brought a lot of power to that middle blocker position. Numerous times, she'd hit a kill and about knock somebody out from the other team. Along with that, quarterback Matt Tisich was a lot of fun to watch. You never felt like the football team was completely out of the game with him taking the snaps. And Georgia Mueller was fantastic for women's basketball year in, year out. The women's basketball team wasn't always good, but you could feel like you were at least going to see a quality individual performance even if the team wasn't playing that well that night.
Yeah, again, I really liked watching those volleyball players. Those were just, Medina and Sherwin, just two of 6 fantastic seniors that they had a couple years ago. Medina, you could just kind of see her as she played. The team got better. The team really followed her lead and her leadership. And I remember, when she played basketball for about half a semester, the team even got better just with her playing basketball. Also you mentioned Georgia Mueller. She was a lot of fun to watch. The basketball team, frankly, was not good for 3 to 4 years. You always knew she was going to score at least 18 points and get at least 10 rebounds a game. So I think those are some of my favorite players to watch.
Do you guys have a favorite sporting event that you covered?
I think Brent will probably say the same thing, but I remember for me, it was the Final Four run for the volleyball team last year. It was the weekend before finals weekend for the 3 of us. We all went up to St. Paul, Minnesota, and just saw a lot of very good volleyball. The women won their Elite 8 match and then fell in the Final Four. So it was great volleyball. Even watching the matches that didn't include Truman. It was just great competition, and it was a lot of fun to cover in a national tournament type setting.
Yeah, I will agree with you. That was probably the highlight of covering sports here. We got to see great volleyball. You got to see St. Paul Concordia, which was fantastic, and has now won 2 or 3 national titles in a row. And I remember saying there was just Rebecca Truman that they will not be able to beat them on Saturday, and they didn't make it that far. But yeah, that was a great time and a great experience for us to just cover a national tournament.
And I'll add to that. I know Truman hosted the regional volleyball tournament 3 years ago, and then that was a good experience. We covered that. but I didn't really know too much about volleyball at that time. But going up to the national tournament, that was really a turning point for me. I learned a lot about volleyball there. Seeing the really good teams play, Concordia University especially, defending national champions, helped me learn a lot about volleyball. The 5-1, the 6-2, and now I think volleyball is one of the best, if not the best, sport to cover at Truman.
Yeah, the other thing about that team was just the number of seniors that they had that year. I believe 6 seniors on that team, so just a great group to cover.
Mm-hmm. Guys, have you had any stories that have stood out in your careers here?
Always enjoy writing feature stories, and one that just stands out to me is Patrick Fanja, former men's basketball player, the forward. Wrote this story about Fanja a couple years ago. He grew up in Africa, came to the United States when he was about 16, and it was just really interesting to interview him and get to know his past. After he left Africa, he has not been back to see his family. There'd be some travel complications of getting back in the country if he left. So he talks to his family about once a week on the phone, but that's it. So he's really enjoyed his life in the United States, and I believe he went on into accounting after he graduated from Truman. But he was kind of torn. He really loved playing basketball. He loved making his life successful here in America, but at the same time, it was really interesting to see someone who'd been separated from his family for several years.